This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Our guest for the hour is Robert Reich, the former Labor Secretary, now Professor of Economics at University of California, Berkeley, and the subject of a new film called Inequality for All. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. But first, I want to turn to another economist, Chilean economist Manfred Max Neef, who's advocated for the idea of an economics crimes tribunal. I interviewed him over Independence Day weekend when he was attending a meeting of Right Livelihood Award laureates in Bogota, Colombia. He had won the Right Livelihood Award after his publication of his book, Outside Looking In, Experiences in Barefoot Economics. I asked him what he was talking about with this economic crimes tribunal, why he felt one was needed.
Well, we know that everything that has happened, in these last years, and we know that many of practically all the big problems, environment, assassinations of leaders, in the Amazon and other places, and unemployment and desperation and all the things, suicides that are increasing dramatically in Spain and other places of the world. We know that all these, in the end, are the origin of what I call an absolutely evil economic model that is dominating the world. This economy cannot go on no longer, because it has become absolutely criminal. I was last year in the CERMAT meeting in Switzerland with about 400 people participating, all high-level people from different countries of the world, and I gave the opening speech. And in the speech I said, well, I'm going to start with a very brutal statement. And the statement is that this economic model is killing more people in the world than all the armies put together. And this is people who die of hunger or of other diseases that would not happen, if this were a more just and I would even say decent economic model. What we are working on is really a humane process. I am now one of the members appointed by the King of Bhutan and the General Assembly, one of the 60 international experts who are designing a new economic paradigm and development paradigm for the world, which is based on well-being and happiness and ecological sustainability, adequate distribution of wealth, and intelligent use of natural resources. But the main component is well-being and human happiness. Along the lines of what would have said or was said by your wonderful, magnificent, and forgotten father of your country, Thomas Jefferson, the only one who wrote a political document in which happiness, the pursuit of happiness, is an inalienable right.
That was Manfred Max Neef. He also was a professor at University of California, Berkeley, an economics professor, now in South Chile, and particularly poignant to hear his words today on this week. That's the 40th anniversary of the coup in Chile on September 11th. The other September 11th, 1973, Salvador Allende died in the palace as the Pinochet forces rose to power. Pinochet ruling for 17 years, killing thousands of Chileans. But that idea that Manfred Max Neef puts forward, Robert Reich, of economics crimes tribunal. What do you think?
Well, it would be very interesting to examine who the great economic criminals are. It's interesting you mentioned the Pinochet coup, because 2 years after that, Milton Friedman came down to Chile to meet with Pinochet to urge economic reforms that were basically quite brutal. And brutalized a great number of people. Milton Friedman was not necessarily a supporter of Pinochet, but certainly hated Allende, was very supportive of what Kissinger and Nixon had both done, and that is help Pinochet take over in Chile.
And interestingly, this week, Kerry met with Kissinger to get advice on Syria.
Yeah, I mean, there are these...
On September 11th, actually.
On September 11th. There are these unfortunate parallels. So in defining an economic criminal, I think it would be interesting to see the interaction between economics and politics. I mean, what the criminal actions to me around the world, particularly in the United States, are the underminings of democracy. That is, if we cannot have a democracy that controls, that limits the excesses of capitalism, the brutality of capitalism, then we don't have any hope of a just economy. And the people who are making it difficult for our democracy or any democracy to function, again, very poignantly reflected in this 40th anniversary of the coup in Chile, are those people who could very well be defined as economic criminals.
Robert Reich, finally, the film is coming out, the film about you, Inequality for All, in 2 weeks, and it'll air around the country, or it'll play in theaters around the country. You famously say in this film, as you even said on the show, we make the rules of the economy and we have the power to change these rules. What do you hope to accomplish with this film?
Well, first of all, it's not about me. It's about the economy. It's about inequality. It's about our democracy. I'm a vehicle. I helped prepare the film, and it's based on some of my work and writings. But we hope that the film is going to open a lot of people's eyes who don't understand what's going on, Amy. I mean, you know, there's a lot of confusion about inequality. People know that inequality is surging. Many people have a feeling that the game is rigged, but they don't really understand why, how it's happened, and why it's dangerous, or what they can do about it. I mean, this film also provides a kind of guide to people. There's a social action movement that is connected to the film. So we hope that the film really spurs not just a different discussion in this country, but also a movement to take back our economy and democracy.
Where do you think you start?
We start, it has to start with people, citizens, organizing and mobilizing and energizing. It can't start, nothing starts in Washington. It starts at the grassroots. We know this. Those of us who have been involved in social movements before know this. But in order to start it, you have to have the right understanding. You have to have the right framework. And that's what this movie is all about.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Bob Reich, for joining us. Robert Reich, former Labor Secretary under President Clinton. He's featured in the new film, Inequality for All. It's being released on September 27th. He's written 12 books, including Aftershock and Beyond Outrage. That does it for our show. Bye.